He was just a man who worked the land, used to being alone, sworn to carry his pain in silence. Until one morning, in the quietest corner of the forest, he locked eyes with a woman caught in a bear trap. And the moment he saved her, the past came back. But the next morning, someone unexpected was at the door, carrying vengeance in his hands and death in his eyes. We're just a few steps away from reaching our first 1,500 subscribers, our growing family. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you to everyone who's brought us this far. With your support, we grow stronger with every story. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. The sky was painted a pale blue, and thin clouds were scattered like shards of broken glass. The ground hadn't softened yet. Snow had mixed with mud, stubbornly defying the season. When Eric Vogel mounted his horse early in the morning and headed toward the path at the edge of the forest, he wasn't after a hunt or anything useful. But he carried a rifle on his back and fatigue in his heart. He just wanted to walk to shake off the silence. Winter had been rough. The pantry in the cabin was empty, and there had been nights when he'd slept by the stove just to keep his son warm. His son, Noah, had tried to stop him from leaving that morning, but Eric had only touched his shoulder and said, "Stay home. Check the fences with old Heinrich. I'll be back by evening." Noah had nodded, lips trembling. He was only 8, but he'd already learned to accept some things quietly. As Eric moved deeper into the forest, a strange feeling tightened in his chest, like something was about to happen. The cold wind had changed direction. Then there was a sound, a faint rasp, not quite an animal's whimper, not quite a human scream, something in between, like a breath broken in half. Eric's instincts kicked in. He stopped his horse and turned toward the sound. He pushed through the snow, through thorny brush, then he saw the blood. A fresh, narrow trail. And then a motionless figure, a young woman curled up on the ground, her bare foot locked in a rusty bear trap. Her clothes were torn, and feathers clung to her in the wind. Her leather slipper lay a few steps away, soaked in blood. Her eyes were open, but not alive. Eric leaned down. They locked eyes. In them, there wasn't a plea for help. There was only resistance, pride, and a kind of defiant acceptance, mixed with anger. Old memories stirred in Eric's chest. Part of his family's land had once belonged to the Comanche. No one talked about it was a history left untold. But Eric knew. Even the silence of the woman before him echoed like a century's worth of screams. "Can you talk?" he asked, dropping to his knees. The woman didn't answer, but she was alive, burning with fever. Eric's hands trembled as he gripped the trap knot just from the cold. When he unlocked it, her body relaxed, though she was half conscious. He lifted her in his arms. She was light, but not lifeless, still fighting, even in that dazed state. Eric got on his horse and wrapped her in a blanket, the same one that had belonged to his late wife. The same blanket he'd first cradled Noah in. When they reached the cabin, smoke curled from the chimney. Noah was on the porch. His eyes widened when he saw the woman Eric was carrying. "Who is she?" the boy asked. "I don't know yet," Eric said. "But we need to help her. Boil some water. Get the clean cloths." Noah ran inside. They laid the woman on the bench near the fire. Eric gently pulled back her clothing to clean the wound. Her bronze skin was dirty and bruised, but her bones still fought. Eric examined the wound. It looked like the bone might be cracked. Infection had already begun. He cleaned it carefully, then bandaged it. The woman said nothing. That night, the snowstorm returned. Eric couldn't sleep. He slipped a knife under his pillow out of habit. Not because he didn't trust the woman, but because he didn't trust the past. He dreamt of his wife, her warm smile. Her final words echoed in his ears. "If you see someone falling, don't look away." By morning, the woman's eyes were open, clear, but still silent. Noah had fallen asleep on the floor next to her. Eric stepped closer. "Do you speak English?" he asked. After a long silence, she whispered one word. "Water." Eric nodded. "You're safe now," he said. But the woman didn't respond. She just looked at him, like she'd heard those words too many times before. And every time, they'd been a lie. That same morning, before the sun had even touched the sky, Eric stood by the stove, warming a blue tin cup with his hands. Outside, the snow had slowly started to melt, and water dripping from the roof was giving life back to the earth. But inside, there was still a kind of chill, one born from unspoken words and silent glances. The woman was sitting on the bench, her back against the wall, pulling an old blanket up over her shoulders. Her eyes were open but staring off into the distance. Even though she didn't turn her head, it was clear she heard every sound: Derek's footsteps, Noah's steps on the wooden floor. She was ready for anything. "You won't get better if you don't eat," Eric said, placing a plate of boiled potatoes and bread in front of her. The woman glanced at the plate from the corner of her eye, then turned back to the window. Her hand didn't reach for the food. "Noah brought you water. Maybe you want to thank him," Eric added. At the sound of the boy's name, something flickered across her face, but her lips stayed tightly shut. When Noah came in, his eyes landed on the woman. He was holding a pine cone with a string tied to it. "I made this for you," he said in a shy voice. "Like a protector, from the heart of the tree." Heinrich said so. For the first time, the woman lowered her head. She looked at the pine cone, then at the boy's face. Her lips parted slightly. "Thank you," she said, her voice hoarse but clear. Noah smiled, and Eric felt something inside him loosen. "What's your name?" Eric asked gently. The woman didn't look at him. She spoke slowly. "Luna." When she said her name, it was as if she was hearing it for the first time, like it was a sacred, distant memory. Eric lowered his head and murmured, "It's a beautiful name." But in that moment, Luna's eyes darkened. A deep tremble passed through her. Her breathing grew faster. She slowly reached for the bandage on her leg. Eric rushed to her side and brought water. "You might have a fever. You should rest." Luna shook her head. "This place isn't safe," she whispered. Eric frowned. "What do you mean?" Luna fixed her eyes on the window. "They'll find me here. They track." "Who are they?" Eric asked, his voice tightening. Luna didn't answer. She just pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders and closed her eyes. But Eric knew. The woman wasn't running from her past. Her past was chasing her. As the day neared noon, Eric felt something while chopping wood outside. A weight on his back, a cold sweat on his neck. The silence in the forest had changed. Even the wind blew differently. He strapped his knife to his belt and quickly stepped onto the porch. Noah was inside. Luna was still on the bench. Then came the sound. A crack. Then fast, muffled footsteps. Eric grabbed his rifle. The steps were quiet but definitely human. Not an animal. He was sure. A figure appeared at the edge of the forest. Tall, wearing a fur coat and a hat. But his face was hidden. The man took a few more steps, then stopped. He was holding something. Eric squinted. A piece of cloth. There was a symbol on it. A black arrow inside a circular shape. Eric exhaled. It was a sign. From the followers. A silent threat. "We're here," it meant. "And don't try to stop us." The man turned back into the forest and vanished without a sound. When Eric stepped back inside, Luna was standing, even with her bandaged leg. She was holding onto the wall, staring out the window. "They're watching us," she said. Eric nodded. "I noticed." Noah looked up at him, scared. "What's happening, Dad?" Eric crouched down and touched his son's shoulder. "Nothing's going to happen. I promise." But Luna turned away and walked to the window. "Promises," she said, "don't stop them. Only us." That night, no one slept. Eric sat by the stove with his rifle across his lap. Luna sat in a corner, her eyes never leaving the window. Noah shifted under the blanket, unable to stay still. Outside, the howling wind was joined by the faint sound of a horse's neigh in the distance. And at that moment, Eric knew. This was only the beginning. The morning was as quiet as the night. The sun had risen, but it was casting its light timidly onto the ground. The tracks in front of the cabin were left over from the night before, deep footprints sunken into frozen mud, broken branches, a groove pressed into the earth. Eric's first task was to check the surroundings. With every step he took, he could feel Luna's gaze following the sound of his movements toward the window. Noah didn't ask anything that morning. He didn't eat breakfast, didn't touch his toys. He just drew a circle in the dirt in front of the porch and placed stones inside it. "A protection ring," he said quietly. Something tightened in Eric's chest. The boy had learned the language of danger. When he returned to the cabin, Luna was changing her bandages. Her foot was still in bad shape, but she was limping with less strain now. Eric tried not to stare, but there was a kind of soldier's discipline in every one of Luna's movements. A resistance carried in silence. "Who was that man?" Eric asked. "Crawford," Luna said, her voice cold and cracked. "Elijah Crawford. They call him Sawbone. Because once he cut off a hunter's fingers just for a bet." Eric's hands clenched into fists. "Why is he following you?" Luna lowered her head. After a long silence, she spoke. He held me captive. For months. Chained me up. When he realized he couldn't own me, he threw me in a bear trap as punishment. Left me there. How did you escape? I bit him, Luna said. Bit his face. Drove my teeth into his cheekbone. Something in him died that day. And now, he doesn't want me back, he wants to destroy me. The anger rising in Eric made him reach for his rifle. But Luna stopped him with her hand. If you fight him, you'll die? Because he's not afraid to die. Neither am I, Eric said. But something in his voice didn't convince her. That afternoon, Eric rode his horse past the tree line, heading toward the old trap sites. He didn't find Crawford, or anyone else. But what he did find was just as terrifying, a newly set up campsite. The fire pit still warm in the dirt, a burnkin sitting on top, and hanging from a tree branch, a black cloth, with a white handprint symbol in the center. That sign meant marked property. When hunters used it for people instead of animals, it meant danger had already gone too far. Eric rushed back to the cabin. Luna was teaching Noah how to tie knots with rope. Eric slammed the door harder than intended. Luna instinctively rose, startled. Eric tossed the cloth onto the table. He was here, he said. Still is. Watching. And he left a message. He wants you. Luna didn't look at the cloth, but her eyes darkened. This time, I'm not running, she said. Noah turned his eyes to his father. Is that man going to find us? Eric knelt down and placed his hands on the boy's shoulders. Even if he does, he won't get past us. Luna quietly walked to the window. Her hand touched the glass, but her eyes were in the past. If you stand in his way, I can't carry the weight of losing another person because of me, she said. Eric stood up. Then let me carry your weight for a while. As night fell, everyone tried to sleep holding onto something. Eric kept watch by the door with his rifle in his lap. Luna paced in front of the window, an old but sturdy bow in her hand, the string gently taut. The moonlight hit the beads in her hair, making them look like tiny bones. Around midnight, a horse neighed. Close. Very close. Eric jumped to his feet, but Luna grabbed his arm. Don't go out there, she said. He wants you to. He's trying to pull you out from where it's safe. Eric looked out the window. The darkness moved, but no one had approached yet. We can't stay inside forever, Eric said. Luna opened an old chest on the floor. She pulled out a bow. Handmade, polished, aged. I can't run, she said. But I can aim. Are you sure? Eric asked. I'm not, Luna said. But I've never lived with certainty anyway. The first light of morning had settled over the forest hills like a gray mist. Eric stood in front of the cabin, the strap of his rifle tied across his chest, his fingers turning white from gripping it. He had made a decision. He would lure Crawford deeper into the woods, drag him as far away as possible, no matter the cost. But those staying behind needed a shelter. I'll take them to the old root cellar, he told Luna. It was built for storms, but the walls are thick. No sound gets in. It's hidden under cover. Luna nodded. Good place. Not many know it. Noah interrupted. I want to come with you. Eric knelt down to meet his eyes. You have a bigger job, he said. You'll protect her. Luna's braver than you, I know that. But she's too hurt to protect you. That's why you'll be her shadow. And I'll be your light. Noah's eyes filled with tears, but he lowered his head and softly said, Okay. Luna hung her beaded charm around her neck. When she looked at Eric, her gaze was soft, but something inside her was still made of stone. How will we know you're coming back? She asked. If I'm not back before night, Eric said, look to the stars. But don't run. If you hear a sound, don't speak. Even if you hear my name, don't answer unless you're sure. Hours later, as Eric rode deeper into the woods on horseback, Luna and Noah followed the hidden path behind the cabin to the root cellar. The entrance was covered in moss, nearly invisible. Inside, it was cool but safe. They lit a small lantern. Instead of whispering, they just fell quiet and waited. Eric was moving through the forest, leaving tracks on purpose. He stepped firmly into the mud, brushed against the bushes deliberately. But the shadow of a bullet hung over his back, ready to strike at any moment. His eyes scanned the area constantly. And then it happened. Someone burst through the trees. The face was familiar. A deep scar had sunk in one side of his cheek. His hands were quick, 2 pistols on his shoulders. He wore a filthy fur coat. Madness burned in his eyes. Found you, Vogel, he said through clenched teeth. That thing you brought with you, she's still alive. Eric raised his rifle. If you came to take her, You're not leaving empty-handed. Crawford smiled. This isn't about taking. It's about finishing. At the same moment, the guns fired. Eric fell behind his horse. One bullet grazed his coat. He quickly took cover behind a tree. His breath was sharp. Crawford was getting closer. Each step a crunch, each crunch a threat. You're gonna die for a woman? Crawford yelled. For a stranger? Eric didn't answer. He just steadied his rifle and waited. Then, the first arrow came like a whistle, striking Crawford in the knee. The next one hit his shoulder. He dropped to the ground, screaming. Eric looked up and saw Luna. Her bow drawn, her eyes glowing in the dark. I came all this way for you, Crawford shouted. For me, Luna said, walking toward him. I never wanted you. Crawford was on the ground, but his mouth still moved. If you don't kill me, I'll come back. I'll be your shadow. Luna slowly knelt beside him. She pulled her own knife from his coat. Bloody, old, familiar. Then she drove it into the ground beside him. I don't pray, she said, but I sew shrouds for those who return. Eric tied Crawford's hands with his own chains. Then they dragged him out of the forest. Near sunset, when they returned to the cabin, Noah was on the porch, eyes red, fists clenched. When he saw them, he ran. Is it over? Luna didn't answer. Eric nodded. For now. But that night, there was another pair of eyes watching from the cabin window. Someone else hidden in the shadows, silent. The story wasn't over. Eric knew it. Luna felt it. And Noah, as he climbed into bed holding the charm Luna had given him, he pushed aside his fear and for the first time, tried to pray. The next morning, Eric woke up staring at the ceiling. Before opening his eyes, he listened to the breathing inside the cabin. Noah's steady inhale and exhale. Luna's silence. The soft crackling from the fire's ashes. And outside, something else. Not human voices, but human movement. Footsteps. Steady. Too many. He got up and grabbed his rifle. Luna was already awake. She pulled her hand from her bandaged leg and quickly walked to the window. For a moment, their eyes met. It's them, she said simply. When Eric stepped out onto the porch, familiar faces from town stood before him. 6 men, 2 women. Some with torches, some with guns at their belts. In the middle, walking slowly and hesitantly, was Sheriff Brenner. Boone, he called out, his voice raised but without anger. They say you're harboring a guest. Is that true? Eric didn't lower his rifle. Not a guest. Someone trying to survive. One of the women stepped forward, Elsa Kramer. The town baker, though she spread more gossip than bread. That woman's Comanche, she said. No one knows her past. People are scared. When have people not been scared? Luna said, appearing behind the door. Her voice was firm but didn't shake. There was silence as all eyes turned to her. The crowd faltered for a moment when they saw she wasn't hiding. The beads on her forehead caught the sunlight. And in her eyes, there was something bigger than pain, defiance. The town sees you as a threat, said the sheriff. But I follow the law. I have no record, no warrant, just talk. Talk kills, said Eric. Even without bullets. Crawford crawled into town this morning, Elsa added. Wounded. Said she attacked him. He had a paper. A bounty order. Legal. Was the law with him? Or the money? Luna snapped. When someone has a price on their head, you don't need another law to justify anything. The sheriff closed his eyes and took a deep breath. I don't want this to get bigger. But if she stays, people will gather. Fire spreads fast on this land. Then a voice came from behind. Small, but certain. She's my mother. The whole crowd turned. Noah stood at the edge of the porch. He said it again, louder this time. She's my mother. Maybe not by blood, but in my heart. And she watches us. She protects us. She loves us. No one spoke. No one moved. Luna looked at Noah, eyes filling but no tears fell. Eric placed a hand on his son's shoulder. If you're going to take her, take me too. The sheriff stepped forward. I didn't come to take anyone. But I have a pen. And paper. If this woman has been claimed by family on this land, we can write it down. That'll make the people quiet. Eric nodded. Right. Luna is staying in Eric Boone's home as a member of his family. She is under his protection. This is in accordance with the law. The sheriff pulled out his pen and scribbled on the edge of his notebook. He signed it, tore out the page, and handed it to Luna. This paper won't protect you, but it'll stop them from pretending you don't exist. The crowd slowly began to disperse. But at the very back, one man turned and looked at Luna one last time. His eyes still burned with anger. You saved yourself. But your past won't let you go, he said. Luna held her head high. I'm not the past, she said. I'm tomorrow. That night, Noah lined up 2 stones in the backyard. He tried to carve letters into them with a small stick. What are you doing? Eric asked. Not a grave. A memory, the boy said. For my old mom. And for the things my new mom lost. Eric sat beside him. Luna watched from a short distance. Silent. She didn't come closer, but she didn't stay far either. There was a calm in her eyes now. She wasn't running anymore. But Eric didn't sleep that night, because he knew there were still eyes watching from deep in the forest. Crawford hadn't been alone. He hadn't grown that hate by himself. And darkness is sometimes nothing more than the shadow of a man. When the dark of night wrapped around the cabin, the sounds of the forest had changed. The owls had gone quiet, and the wind had shifted direction. Eric sat by the stove, cleaning his rifle, but his eyes were locked on a point outside the window, something unseen. His instincts whispered, storms are born from silence. Luna was kneeling beside Noah, tying a beaded bracelet around his wrist. This will find you, she whispered. Even if the dark hides you, this will bring you back to me. Noah's eyes were half closed, but just before drifting off, he mumbled, the dark can't touch you. Luna lowered her head. The boy was right, because this time, she wasn't going to run. A little past midnight, there was a knock at the door. Not once, 3 times. Then silence. Eric rushed to the window, but there was no shadow outside. Only moonlight and tracks. Muffled footprints in the soil. A drag mark in the mud. Someone or several had already surrounded them. Go to the cellar, Eric said. I'm not going with you this time. Luna shook her head. Enough, she said. I've hidden long enough. Tonight I stand. At that moment, a window shattered behind the cabin. Eric pulled Noah away quickly. Luna grabbed her bow, notched an arrow. The silence was so deep it muffled even the sound of blood pumping. Then the first shadow appeared. Tall, broad. It wasn't Crawford's voice, this one was younger, sharper. We want the woman, someone shouted from outside. We swallowed half without seeing it. Now we'll take the rest. Eric opened the window, leveled his rifle. This place will be your grave. Leave whatever part of you want saved, I won't carry the rest. A gunshot cut through the air. Glass shattered. Luna dropped to the ground and ducked behind the wall, lining up her arrows. Eric took cover. Everything inside table, chest, stove was now a barricade. Then, Luna stood up, her bow drawn, eyes locked in. She waited for the first man to appear through the window. When he did, her arrow landed in his chest with a thud. He fell. Eric fired a shot. The second shadow pulled back. But there were too many. The door began to give. The boards creaked. Eric turned to Luna. Go. Protect Noah. I'll stay here. No, said Luna. I burned in the same fire with you. I'll fight on the same ground. When the door broke, Luna fired a second arrow. This one struck a knee. Eric threw a chair at another attacker, knocking him down. But one more got inside. Young, with a familiar scar on his face. Crawford's brother. Same hate, different face. He's still crawling because of you, he shouted. Luna didn't answer. Her bow was broken now, but she had a knife. When the man lunged, she turned the blade into his shoulder. They wrestled to the ground. Eric seized the moment, pulled the man off her, and threw him back. Noah stood in the corner of the doorway, seeing everything. At last, the remaining men ran. Wounded, broken. After they left, silence returned. But this time, it was a silence born from victory, not fear. The next morning, Eric sat on the porch. The bandage on his arm steamed in the morning sun. Luna was in the yard, kneeling in the dirt. She planted a seedling, a tiny pine sapling. She placed a stone beside it. On it, she carved a symbol, a circle with 3 interlocked dots. In Comanche, it meant root, path, and shadow. Noah came up beside her. What's it for? For where we started, Luna said. The first place we didn't run. Eric stood. Are you still thinking about leaving? Without lifting her gaze, Luna answered. For the first time, a place isn't pushing me out. But more than that, it's calling me. Eric understood what she meant. Not to leave but to stay. Not to run but to take root. And this land wasn't just Eric Boone's anymore. Now it was Luna's too. And Noah's. And of the little cabin where 3 different stories woke up every morning together. Outside, the wind gently moved a branch. The sky was clear. And from deep within the forest, for the first time, no eyes were watching. By the way, we noticed something small. Most people who watch these stories aren't actually subscribed to the channel. Maybe we get caught up in the moment or just forget to hit the button. But your support truly helps us keep creating stories like this. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel.